All right. Well, for the moment, we're back. We're having some issues today, which really stinks, to be fair. Really stinks. So, for now, we're back. I have a few things that need to be learned about doing the live stream thing, especially with all those fun, fun forces out there that like to make doing this live um, a little less enjoyable. But fear not, we'll figure this out. And if I have to re record this session to make it not be live, just to make sure that we don't lose the day, that is definitely what I'll do. I don't want to focus on that anymore. So let's do this. Back to our screen. So, what were we talking about before we were so rudely interrupted? So, in the first part, you know what? I need to kind of start again. I think I'll just start again. And let's just move back through, pretend like none of this. All right. So this is where I'll start. So this is take 2. And maybe this is where I will start the video again. This is take 2 for day 2. We're having some technical issues with the big wide world of the internet. And we're just going to try this again. So, welcome to day 2 of Find What You're Looking For, an internet search series, 9-day training. And we're going to continue talking about search operators. And yesterday we looked at exact match with quotations, and we looked at exclusion or not with the hyphen. Today we're going to look at ands and ors. So those, note that those are capitalized, capital and, capital or. We're going to look at a search operator called cite. And the cite prefix, we use that with another website. And then that is just a super powerful search operator, one of my favorites. And we're also going to look at the wildcard and see what that looks like with the Google search engine. So we're going to consider just the world of web pages that have anything to do with fruit. We're going to try to make a smaller example for ourselves to focus on here. So in that big wide world of fruit, we have websites, web pages that have the word apple. And we have a bunch of websites and web pages that have the word orange. And that's great. But we have to consider that there's potentially going to be some overlap. There are going to be some websites in this big wide world of fruit-related web pages that will include websites that have apple and websites that have orange, but they also have both words. So that's where that little overlap between those two circles that represent our Apple web pages and our orange web pages. That's what's happening there. That overlap is where there's both words on a web page. So in reality, it'd probably be maybe a bigger space, but I don't know. So our illustration here, just to continue this idea, let's look at what we talked about in day 1. So we introduced the exact match search operator, and that's with quotation marks. So quotation marks, apple crumble with quotation marks around it, that has a special meaning. That's different than just typing in apple crumble. Apple crumble with quotation marks around it is looking specifically for those two words being together, the exact match of apple being right next to crumble. Apple crumble. And if it doesn't have apple crumble, then our final result shouldn't be including it. But let's think about this from the perspective of this example, this illustration. So first of all, we can start here. Our brain can say, well, we know that because the word apple is involved, this orange circle, that is all the web pages that have the word apple in it, that our result, our answer will be found in that space. So there may be some of those websites that also have the word orange. We see that overlap there. That's fine. But we know that not everything is going to say apple crumble. Not everything is going to match that whole result. But we're going to start there. We're going to find that search engines are going to be pulling from that larger space that has the word apple in it. Just makes some sense. But within that, we've got apple crumble specifically. Those two words together, there's going to be a subset. Maybe it's a much bigger subset. That really doesn't matter. The point is, within that orange circle, there's going to be a bunch of search results that will get pulled out by a search engine that contain apple crumble, those two words together. So let's look at that. Let's look at this. So we've got apple crumble with quotes around it. And what comes back? This is the kind of thing we looked at yesterday. So we see apple crumble specifically coming back to us. We see the two words together. So that mostly a lot of these results we're going to see in the title, but we see it in the body of this preview here. Even see it in these questions. We'll talk about what's happening there with those questions, but a lot of these suggestions here also have apple crumble specifically. So that's kind of neat. That's a lot of recipes. Probably makes you hungry. All right, let's look at the next one, which is another review from yesterday. The idea of excluding or not this. So if we've got this big wide world of fruit, and maybe even the word fruit specifically for this request, we're interested in pages that refer to fruit, but not oranges. Not sure why we're against oranges, but just to give the example, what does that look like? Well, it's going to start off by pulling from this big world of options that include fruit, but that little hyphen there in front, no space, hyphen orange, that's going to say whatever you do, whatever results you're returning to me, do not include the word orange. So this circle is representing all of the things that include the word orange. And that means that there's going to be a few of the things that include the word apple that will be excluded, but that's by design. That's what we're asking. That's, for whatever reason, our mindset when we make this request with search. We're saying, no, if it's got the word orange in it, not interested. Now, we're talking in this sort of defined world. We're only talking about fruit. We're just trying to use this as an example. Orange is one of those interesting words that outside of this specific example, orange can mean things other than fruit, right? So we have to think about context, and we're going to talk quite a bit more about context in the later sessions, but just to give a little preview of that idea today, the idea that orange can mean the color, orange can mean the fruit, orange can mean some historical stuff and be related to that. So, when you're excluding something, you're not just excluding the thing you're thinking of, you're also likely excluding things that also match. I maybe mean orange, the fruit, but orange, the color, orange, historically, prevalent ideas relating to that, those things go away too. In this example, we're only talking about fruit. So we're trying to simplify that, but just that sneak peek into the idea of context right there before we move on. Okay, something new, capitalized OR. So the request here could be apple or, with big capital letters, apple or orange. So why is that significant? Well, let's do an internet search, but let's go through this example first. So what this is going to do is it's going to give results that are coming from both circles. Okay. Exactly how this is done by any individual search engine, including Google, it may not strictly adhere to the way that we would think of these concepts. This is a nice simplified overview. I don't understand the magic that's happening behind the scenes at Google or any search engine. However, the thing we're going to walk through in a minute, we will see that it definitely makes a difference, and how that makes a difference just to show that, yeah, it really does do something different. It does refine our searches quite a bit. So yeah, it's going to return, in theory, everything that's relating to our apple and to our orange, including the overlap, including everything that's just got orange in it, everything that's got apple in it. So it's a very inclusive thing. It's just all of the stuff that is happening with those two words. You want, it doesn't matter. You're not looking for both. You're looking for one or the other, but it could have both. That's the kind of thing we want to be thinking about. So let's look at a few quick searches. Let's put something new in here. So what did I just say? Apple or orange. Okay, here we go. So this is why I like using Google for examples, because Google tells us the size of what's actually come back. Not that we're going to see all of these, but this is 23 billion with a B, billion results. And again, less than a second. That's ridiculous, but wow. Okay, so let's do this with something else I can show you. See that? See that symbol there, straight up and down? It's called a pipe. I think it has other names, but it's a straight vertical line. In a lot of computer science things, it's called a pipe. It's kind of the symbol that nobody knows why it's there for. Sometimes, often right above the return or the enter key on your keyboard. Some other styles of keyboards, it is other places, but I think it's the most common place is right above the enter or the return key, and it's shift and the key that has that on there. There's the backward slash key that it shares. They're roommates on that key. So this symbol can be used instead of big capital or. Let me show you that. I'll do that right here. Do that. And we see pretty similar number. Not exact. That's kind of funny. I've done this before and it's been exact. So who knows what that's all about. But it shows a pretty big number. It's still 23 billion. All right, let's do another one. I'm going to go, here's another way to search. Usually from your search engine, you can go right from apple or orange, lowercase or. So here's the difference. Uppercase or, definitely including all the apples, all the oranges. Okay, that capitalized thing really, really matters here. We'll talk about capitalization of searches and words and things another day. Lots of little concepts that sneak in everywhere. But when it's a lowercase or, results 2 billion. That's less. And the reason it's less is that or in this case is not a search operator. It's just a word that's part of the world of search. So if I just type apple orange without or, again, that's 2 billion. So it's looking at, okay, are the words there? We're kind of looking for both words, not quite the same as and. We'll look at and in a few moments. But this is the big difference between or and not including or at all, or doing the next keyword, which is the next search operator, which is and, is that this really broadens your search. If you're going to use an intentional or even that pipe sign, even though it wasn't exactly the same number of results that came back today, it was right in that neighborhood of 23 billion results, right? So this is big. This is broadening your search. Now, again, this is illustrative purposes, right? This is an example that probably not going to have a whole lot of reason to do practically, but it demonstrates the idea very clearly that we are opening up our possibilities. We want to see apple or we want to see orange. That's cool. We're going to get into some fun how to use these things a little bit more intricately, shall we say, hopefully tomorrow, and it might even spill into another day. It's a big enough idea. It might just do that. So these are things that are happening, and what you're doing again is that when you include one of these search operators, you are showing the search engine your intentions. You intentionally mean to broaden your search, or you're really looking for these words to be together or not including certain words. And it gives any search engine a clearer idea of what you're looking for. It might not get you as, it might not get you totally to your destination, but they're really helpful things to keep you going towards it. All right, so let's look at and. You might already kind of have this, of a sense of where this is going. So we have a request here, search request of apple and orange. So this is where we look specifically at that idea of overlap. It needs to have the word apple and it needs to have the word orange. So let's bring this back over here. So we've got apple orange with no operator in between. Google sometimes is suggesting stuff to us, which can be helpful. But right now, we're going to have apple and orange very specifically. Okay. Now, that's not capitalized. Why is that not capitalized? That's a really interesting thing. Why was that not capitalized? That's because it did an interpretation of something else. And sorry, just trying to deal with some things. It's done an interpretation and saying, oh, you didn't mean capitalized, and it's just downcased everything, but we really meant capitalized. All right, being a little bit dealing with some of these live things again. All right, so keeping going. So now we have apple and orange capitalized. We see that's kind of a similar thing that's happening apple orange in the ballpark. There's some argument that maybe you wouldn't need this specifically, but it does have some power, right? So we're saying we need to see both words. Let's go through these search results. So what are we seeing? We are seeing apple orange, apples versus oranges, comparing apples and oranges, similarities and differences between, these things are here because we have asked for, things relating. We've got images that have both. So this makes sense. This is what we should be seeing. We should be seeing results that are coming with both. Okay. Now to my favorite. This is the cite operator. So when you use cite as a prefix and put a website address, it will actually, most cases when, I think there's a few exceptions. I don't know why at the moment, why those are, but mostly anything I've ever done this with, it works. And what you do is you use this prefix and then you put the name of website and it'll only search that website. It's very great. So if we say, okay, let's look for apples, and we're only looking for something to do with apple from a specific website. This is a real website called www.fruitid.com. It's going to help people identify their fruit. And we're interested in results from specifically this website about apples. And there's going to be a lot of different varieties of apples. So, this could be a really interesting search. So what's going to happen is when we do this request, it's going to search for things that are only coming from this website in this world of Apple, Apple Word pages, right? So, yeah. So let's look at that again. So what did I say this is? This is the cite operator. So cite : and then you just type in the address itself. So what was it? fruitid.com. And then what's going to happen is 69 results. Let's just talk about how amazingly small that number is compared to the, 2 billion or the 23 billion. But then there's the significance here of all of my results. There's the type of fruit variety of apple, Margaret, beauty of Bedford. These are all different types, and every result that's coming back is from the fruitid.com website. So that has really been a very powerful thing to do. Let's just shift gears here for a second and do a different kind of apple search. How about if we did the same thing? How about I do it from here? Do the same thing, and we have apple, site, and instead of fruit ID, if we come here and we do apple.com, apple.ca, let's do apple.ca. Okay. So 150 results. Everything should be coming specifically from the apple.ca website. And we are finding that's exactly what's happening. So it's about all sorts of different things, but we see this. We see this is exactly what we asked for. Again, 150 results. We're not talking about fruit anymore, obviously. It's just every time you do a search, you've got, I should show you, again, we did this yesterday's session. Apple. almost 11.5 billion websites just for the word Apple. And it focuses on the tech company, right? That's huge. Let's look at something specific. Maybe something more useful. You want to learn about trade-in. Instead of going to the the Apple website, sometimes it might just be easier to do this. You want to find out about trade-in, specifically on the apple.ca website. Look at that. First thing that comes back. Yep, there's 230 results. But it shows you web pages that only have trade-in included. And the first thing it shows you is trade-in specifically as the main trade-in page for apple.ca. That's super helpful. So that's kind of neat. You can do that. Okay, one last concept to look at here. The idea of wildcards. We're going to have to dig into this one a bit deeper in some other contexts. But basically, a wildcard, here's our request. Apple, star, Betty. There's spaces in between the words and between the asterisk there, the star. And again, that's Shift 8 on your keyboard. I might call it star asterisk is more the proper term for it. But when you do this, in this context, this is acting as a wildcard. And if you're not familiar with the idea of wildcard, it's just basically, it could be anything or nothing in between. And I don't even have quotations here. Quotations, we can do an example with that. That's a preview of combining some of our search operators together. We'll talk about that a lot more in day 3 session. But Apple star Betty is saying Apple and then whatever comes in between Apple and the word Betty. So sort of dot. Could be anything. Could be nothing. So you want results that say Apple Betty. You want results that have both of those words, but you want results that have words in between as well. So we know, again, we're looking at this big world of Apple stuff, but somewhere in there, there's a bunch of results that specifically follow this pattern. And it's all about pattern matching. So let's look at this one. I enjoy this one. Why do I enjoy this one? Because I must be hungry. So if we put in exactly that example, Apple star Betty, we have 40.6 million results coming back. The first one, Apple Betty recipe. But then we see Apple Brown Betty. So maybe if you're familiar with this kind of baking, Apple Brown Betty is pretty popular as a thing. But then this is also giving examples that are Apple Pan Betty and Apple Raisin Betty. That wouldn't be my choice, but hey, that's going to float someone's boat. But it's matching what we're talking about here. So that's pretty cool. Let's do it again. but let's throw some quotes around it just so we can see what the difference is. So what's the difference here? What we're expecting is that this is going to match very specifically that phrase with, we might see initial results being very, very much the same, but there's going to be slightly less. And it is only slightly. So before, without the quotes, we have 40.6 million. This is 39.6 million. So somehow we lost a million by putting the quotes around it. So it got a little bit more specific. Now, Google's going to feature for us the ones that it thinks make the most sense. So if we've typed without the quotes, as we did with this example, if we type in the order Apple Star Betty, it's going to assume that the results that are the most relevant to us are actually going to be in that order. So that's what it's going to return. A lot of those first results, they're probably going to be pretty similar. And again, we see Apple Pan Betty, Apple Brown Betty, Apple Date Betty, Apple Raisin Betty, like that star is just making sure, and then just straight up Betty, this could be nothing. It's just making sure that we have all these options. Now, again, let's do another example. Spaghetti star meatballs. And the reason I like this example is I grew up, you said spaghetti and meatballs, but I know there are people that say spaghetti with meatballs. So doing something like this, even without any more search operators, it's giving a variety of things that are in the ballpark. Yep, there's 129 million results, but it gives things because we're talking about in that ballpark of ideas. So here's spaghetti and meatballs with an ampersand instead. I said spaghetti with meatballs. I think we see that like on the second page. Spaghetti in meatballs. It captures that. I wouldn't have ever thought to have searched for that. I don't call it that. I don't hear anyone else call it that. Spaghetti and meatballs. That makes sense. That's kind of how we say it. Let's go to the next one. The spaghetti with meatballs. Again, that's kind of the W with the / that represents with. But I would never have thought to type that in. And, it could be a spelling mistake. Google does all sorts of amazingly powerful things where it guesses and it can make some really good assumptions based on, well, this really means this, or this is similar to this pattern. And it tells us all sorts of things. What I'm trying to do here is let you know that there is power in knowing how to be more specific in knowing what you're asking for. So if you're looking for a recipe, spaghetti and meatballs, and you want a broader selection of things, you could try something like this and stick a star in there. One more just to end off with, just because it's a nice way to end, and it's been a day already for some of us, I'm sure. Fluffiest star or asterisk in the world. And again, with the quotes. So this is a preview for the combining of search operators, and we'll be looking at that. So the star could be anything. Fluffiest pancakes in the world, fluffiest animals in the world, fluffiest cat in the world. It's looking at that phrase, fluffiest something in the world. Yep, it's giving us 729,000 results. Fluffiest cats, fluffiest dogs. I want to go to the next page. Here we go, of results. Who does that? We don't often go to the next page. It's always our goal to get something on the first page, right? That's convenience for you. But looking at this, and I mean, hey, let's look at the images, because now we've got people and their fluffiest cats in the world in pictures. Aren't they great? That's how we should end. Fluffiest. So, in summary, what have we done? Well, we were still talking about this idea that search operators make internet searches more specific. We want to refine our search results based on, we need to refine our searches based on our results. What are we getting back? Maybe you want to expand and then you realize, yep, I now need to get more specific. we'll be talking about doing this a lot more over the next several days, really digging it into tomorrow because we're going to start combining some stuff tomorrow. We can use the operators to restrict or expand our search. So some of these are the same points as yesterday, but look at it from this angle. We have new ways of doing this. The site operator is extremely powerful. We have new ways of expanding out because we can use the wildcard and have a phrase like fluffiest star in the world, fluffiest blank in the world. Think of wildcard as blank, right? Fluffiest blank in the world. It could be cats, it could be pancakes, it could be, it's a really interesting way to open our mind to searches and finding some stuff. So next time, even more search operators. And then how do we use them together? We started doing that a little bit today. You could probably start playing with the ones you've already got. We'll show you a bit more about that. And then there's this feature called advanced search. Most search engines have it. Google definitely does. And so I'll introduce you to advanced search. If that's new to you, you can even go look for it ahead of time if you want to explore. And then, as always, I have time for your questions. So if you have questions, put them in the chat, put them in the comments. If you know me personally, reach out. You can use the contact page on the Foundational Things website, whatever works for you. And if you're able to do it, especially in this live timing, it'll actually have a chance to make it into the live sessions. And I'll be able to record the response as part of this series over the next several days. In the meantime, until next time, probably noon tomorrow, that will be our goal. Check out the free companion guide, Searching Made Easier. I meant to actually show this to people yesterday, but it's an 11-page guide, Searching Made Easier, summary at the top. A lot of the stuff we're starting to talk about now, it gets into context, and we have the overview of search operators. You've actually seen a bunch of these now. There's case studies at the end where you can go through, and it's a really good document. I'm really proud of it, and I can't wait for it to get into your hands and to hear feedback from you. You see spaghetti with meatballs example, but yeah, like there's certain things. It just reminds you of stuff that we're talking about here. But it's just seeing how it works, going through step by step. I think it's a great guide. So head over to this link. The link will also be in the description eventually, as well as all over the place. If you're able to look at some of the other videos from the series, you'll be able to find this link. And yeah, like you should really get a lot out of it. So, just head over there and get that so that you can download it. You can also join news and reminders emails, sign up for those every time I release a new video, and I'll send it a link. And of course, there are the regular videos from the YouTube channel, and you can check all of that stuff out in the meantime. I would love to hear from you. Hope you can subscribe to the channel, that you can like this video or other videos that have provided some value to you. Eventually, all of the videos in this teaching series, in one way or another, will end up on YouTube and will be on the playlist for this series of Find What You're Looking For. So thanks so much for joining me today. It's been an interesting one. The perils of the world of live streaming have already started. Day 2 have already started to come get me. But so glad that you're here, and we'll do our best to make every day a better experience, just with living, but as well as with your internet searching. So glad that you're here, and I look forward to hearing from you. I appreciate your time. So until next time, you take care.